I want to start with a hard truth, one that might make you a little uncomfortable. We spend too much time looking sideways, too much time measuring our worth against someone else's highlight reel, too much time worrying about what they think, what they do, how they are ahead, and why we are behind. But let me ask you this. What would happen if you turned all that energy inward? What if instead of watching someone else's lane, you double down on your own? Because here's what I know for sure. When we trade our authenticity for approval, we betray ourselves. When we chase someone else's version of success, we lose our own. Comparison is a liar. It steals joy. It blinds us to our own worth. And worst of all, it keeps us from doing the deep, hard, real work that only we can do. So today, I want you to make a choice, a radical, courageous choice, to stop chasing, to stop comparing, and to start showing up for yourself. Because when you do, you reclaim your power, you rewrite your story, and you give yourself permission to rise, not because you're better than anyone else, but because you are finally standing in the fullness of who you are meant to be. We live in a world obsessed with comparison. From the moment we wake up, we're bombarded with images of what we should look like, what we should have, and how we should live. The constant stream of curated lives on social media, the success stories of others, the pressures from society to measure up, it's no wonder we feel exhausted. The truth is, comparison has a way of sneaking into our minds, often without us even realizing it, and stealing something precious from us, our joy. At first, it may seem harmless. Maybe you're just casually scrolling through your feed, or perhaps you're hearing about someone's promotion at work. But when we start measuring our worth against someone else's, we lose sight of our own journey. We begin to believe that their success is our failure, or that their happiness is a reflection of what we're missing. This mindset can easily spiral into a place where you're no longer focused on your own achievements, but rather on what everyone else is doing. The more we compare, the less we appreciate our own unique path. The impact of comparison isn't just psychological, it's emotional too. When you measure your life against someone else's, you begin to doubt yourself. You question your decisions, your worth, and your value. Why don't I have what they have? Why am I not as far along as they are? These questions create a narrative of inadequacy. And when we dwell on that narrative, we rob ourselves of the joy that comes from simply being who we are. You see, comparison is not just an external force. It shapes how we see ourselves and the world around us. More than that, comparison can paralyze us. It keeps us stuck in a loop of self-doubt, preventing us from taking the steps we need to grow. It makes us afraid to start because we're so focused on where others are and what they've already accomplished. We become fixated on the finish line and forget that the only race that matters is the one that's ours alone. The longer we allow comparison to dictate our actions, the less we're able to fully show up for ourselves and pursue the goals that truly matter to us. It's like trying to run a marathon while staring at the runners next to you. What happens? You lose your pace, you get distracted, and you risk missing the very thing you set out to achieve. Another insidious side of comparison is that it distances us from gratitude. When we compare ourselves to others, we lose sight of the things we have, the things we've built, and the things we've already accomplished. It's easy to forget that you're already a work in progress, a work that is uniquely yours. When you're constantly looking at someone else's finished product, every moment you spend wondering why you're not as far ahead as someone else is a moment you could be spending appreciating how far you've already come. The dangerous thing about comparison is that it's not just about external markers of success, it's also internal. We compare our pain, our struggles, and our vulnerabilities with those of others. We see someone handling adversity and think they're stronger or better equipped to deal with it, but we don't see the full picture. We don't know their fears, their setbacks, or their hidden battles. Comparison in this realm is toxic because it invalidates our own experience. We minimize our struggles because we think someone else has it worse, or we judge ourselves for not handling things better. But the truth is, your pain is valid, your experience is real, and your journey is unique to you, not to anyone else. Lastly, comparison is an enemy of authenticity. When we compare ourselves to others, we often lose touch with who we really are. We start adopting parts of other people's personalities, lifestyles, or goals as if they were our own. We become so focused on trying to live up to someone else's standard that we forget to honor our own voice, our own desires, and our own truth. We become a mirror of what others want us to be, rather than the beautiful, authentic version of ourselves that we were meant to be. When we allow comparison to control our lives, we put on a mask that keeps us from fully showing up as ourselves. We stop embracing our individuality and begin to suppress the very essence of who we are. The antidote to comparison isn't competition, it's celebration. It's about recognizing that your journey is yours and that the success and happiness of others don't diminish your own. In fact, when you stop comparing yourself to others, you open up the space for gratitude, joy, and growth. Instead of measuring your worth against someone else's timeline, you begin to see your own progress and your own strength. When we stop comparing, we make room to celebrate the victories, big and small, that we've achieved. We stop looking outside ourselves for validation and start building that validation from within. The more we can release comparison, the more we can embrace the truth that we are enough just as we are. There is a powerful and deeply ingrained human desire to seek approval from others. We long to be liked, accepted, and celebrated. It's woven into the very fabric of our social existence. From childhood to adulthood, the need for approval shapes much of how we interact with the world. Whether it's seeking validation from our parents, peers, or even social media followers, the drive to gain approval can be all-consuming. Yet, if we're not careful, this need for external validation can derail us, pushing us to compromise our authenticity and silence our true selves in the pursuit of approval. When we focus on approval from others, we begin to lose touch with who we truly are. Our decisions are no longer guided by our internal compass, but are instead influenced by what others expect or what we think will make us fit in. This is where we make the trade-off. We trade authenticity for approval. We begin to do things not because they align with our values or desires, but because we believe it's what others want us to do. This may look like taking a job we don't love to gain recognition, staying in a relationship that doesn't serve us just to avoid conflict, or hiding parts of our personality that we fear others might judge. All of this happens because we value the approval of others over our own authenticity. The tragedy in this is that we can never truly be happy or fulfilled when we're living for the approval of others. Think about it. How can we build a life that feels aligned with our true self when we're constantly adjusting our behavior to fit into the mold of someone else's expectations? The approval we seek is often fleeting and unreliable, and it rarely brings the deep, lasting fulfillment we long for. You might get a compliment, a promotion, or a like on a post, but the moment that approval fades, we're left feeling empty. always chasing the next round of validation to fill the gap. In the end, living for approval will always leave us unsatisfied because we're never truly honoring who we are or what we want. Moreover, when we prioritize approval over authenticity, we often suppress the very parts of ourselves that make us unique. We start hiding our quirks, our passions, and our true desires, believing they're not good enough or that they won't be accepted by others. In doing so, we become a shadow of our true selves, playing roles that don't serve us just to fit into someone else's narrative. This is a painful form of self-betrayal. It's denying ourselves the chance to live fully and express ourselves freely because we fear rejection. Yet, true fulfillment comes from stepping into the fullness of who we are without apology or compromise. As we chase approval, we also invite a constant cycle of anxiety into our lives. We worry about what others think of us, constantly evaluating our behavior, words, and actions based on how they will be received. This creates an endless feedback loop where we are never free to simply be. Instead, we are always looking outward for reassurance, often failing to trust our own judgment. The fear of disapproval can become so paralyzing that it stops us from pursuing our goals or even speaking our truth. We become afraid of making mistakes or standing up for ourselves because we worry about the fallout or the judgment that may follow. This anxiety inhibits our growth and keeps us trapped in a state of uncertainty. It's also important to recognize that the approval we seek often comes with strings attached. When we live for others' approval, we allow their opinions to define our worth. It becomes a dangerous game because no matter how hard we try to please others, there will always be someone who isn't satisfied. This creates a cycle of seeking validation that can never truly be won. We end up sacrificing pieces of ourselves to maintain approval, even if it's only temporary. We forget that our worth is not based on how others perceive us, but on the inherent value we hold as individuals. Choosing authenticity over approval requires courage, but it is also the pathway to freedom. When we begin to embrace who we truly are without seeking permission or validation, we step into a life of alignment. We no longer feel like we're living for someone else's narrative. Instead, we start living for our own, guided by our values, our desires, and our passions. The moment we choose authenticity, we give ourselves the permission to show up as our true selves, unfiltered, unpolished, and unapologetically real. This is where growth, creativity, and self-empowerment flourish. It's in those moments when we stop trying to be someone else and start embracing who we really are that we begin to tap into our deepest potential. The rewards of living authentically are immeasurable. First, you create genuine connections. When you show up as your true self, the people who resonate with you on a deep level will gravitate toward you. You attract relationships built on trust and respect, not based on the need to impress or fit into a mold. You also gain inner peace. When you stop living to please others, the pressure of constantly trying to meet external expectations diminishes. You begin to trust yourself more, make decisions that are true to who you are, and experience a deeper sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. Most importantly, you find happiness not because you've earned it from someone else's approval, but because you've given it to yourself. You stop needing others to validate your existence and begin to appreciate the worth you've always had within you. In the end, authenticity isn't just about being true to yourself. It's about embracing your worth as you are. When you choose authenticity over approval, you reclaim your power. You take ownership of your story and stop letting the world define your worth. It's a radical act of self-love, self-respect, and bravery. The beauty of authenticity is that it doesn't require perfection. You don't have to be someone else's idea of good enough, because you are already good enough. And when you stop chasing approval and start living authentically, you'll discover that you've had everything you need to thrive all along. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but the way we spend those hours, the energy we invest, makes all the difference. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we can be everything to everyone, that we can juggle multiple responsibilities and tasks at once without consequence. But the truth is, our energy is not infinite. We only have so much of it to give, and how we invest it directly impacts the quality of our lives. The question we need to ask ourselves is, are we using our energy in ways that truly serve our well-being and growth, or are we draining ourselves on things that ultimately leave us unfulfilled? Too often, we find ourselves pouring our energy into the wrong places. We expend it on things that don't align with our values, on relationships that drain us, or on goals that aren't really our own. We say yes to people, commitments, and obligations out of a sense of duty or guilt, rather than from a place of true desire or purpose. Over time, this constant giving without regard for our own needs leads to burnout. We end up feeling exhausted, disconnected from ourselves, and resentful because we've neglected the things that actually matter. When we spread ourselves too thin, we lose touch with our own needs, and that is where the imbalance begins. Investing our energy wisely means learning to say no. It means understanding that not everything, and certainly not everyone, deserves our time and attention. It means prioritizing the things that align with our goals, values, and purpose. Saying no isn't about being selfish, it's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are your most precious resources. When you say no to something, you're not just avoiding something unwanted, you're making room for the things that truly matter. This can be difficult, especially when we feel obligated to please others or fear disappointing them. But when we fail to honor our own boundaries and needs, we compromise our ability to show up fully for the things that truly deserve our energy. Another important aspect of wisely investing our energy is learning to let go of things that no longer serve us. Holding on to past mistakes, toxic relationships, or outdated goals takes an incredible amount of mental and emotional energy. We can get stuck in the past, replaying old arguments or regrets, and in doing so, we prevent ourselves from moving forward. Letting go requires courage. It's about making space for new possibilities by clearing out the emotional clutter that holds us back. This is not an easy task, but it's essential for our growth. As we let go of what no longer serves us, we free up energy that can be better invested in the present and future. Furthermore, it's crucial to recognize that not all energy expenditure is visible or tangible. We often think of energy in terms of physical work or effort, but emotional and mental energy are just as real. Constantly worrying, overthinking, or ruminating about things we can't control drains us in ways that are often invisible to others. The emotional labor we put into trying to meet everyone's expectations, managing our anxiety, or suppressing our true feelings takes a toll on our well-being. This invisible drain can leave us feeling tired, overwhelmed, and disconnected from our true selves. Learning to protect our mental and emotional energy is just as important as conserving physical energy. The process of wisely investing your energy also involves recognizing where you get energy. We all have different sources of energy. Some of us feel recharged by time spent with loved ones, others by solitude, creative work, or physical exercise. By identifying what brings us energy, we can intentionally carve out time for these activities. Engaging in what energizes us is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. When we actively nurture the activities and relationships that feed us, we create a well of energy to draw from when we need it most. It's easy to get caught in the cycle of constant busyness, but unless we make time for the things that rejuvenate us, we risk burning out and losing touch with our inner vitality. One of the most powerful ways to invest your energy wisely is by focusing on quality over quantity. In a world that encourages constant hustle, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that more is better. But when we try to do everything, we end up doing very little well. The key is to focus on what truly matters and to pour our energy into those things with intention. Whether it's a project, a relationship, or a personal goal, quality investment means dedicating time and effort to the things that bring the most value. This might mean working on one project at a time instead of juggling several, or prioritizing one relationship over others. It's about being present, engaged, and fully committed to what you're doing in the moment. Finally, investing your energy wisely involves practicing self-care. This is not about indulgence, but about recognizing that taking care of yourself is the foundation for being able to give to others. When you're tired, overwhelmed, or burned out, you can't show up as your best self. Self-care isn't just about physical rest, although that is important. It's also about mental and emotional restoration. It means creating boundaries that protect your energy, taking breaks when you need them, and making sure you're nourishing yourself, not just with food, but with the right mental and emotional inputs. When you care for yourself first, you ensure that you have the energy to invest in the people, causes, and goals that matter most to you. In a world that constantly demands more of us, learning to conserve and wisely invest our energy is one of the most radical acts of self-respect we can practice. It requires self-awareness, boundaries, and a commitment to living intentionally. Our energy is the most finite resource we have, and how we choose to use it will determine the quality of our lives. It's time to stop spreading ourselves too thin and start investing our energy where it counts most. Only then can we truly live a life of purpose, joy, and fulfillment. In a world that constantly tells us to hustle harder, get ahead, and compete, it's easy to start believing that success is a race we must win, and fast. We measure our lives against the timelines and achievements of others, thinking that the only way to truly succeed is by keeping up with the crowd. But success isn't about who reaches the finish line first. It's not about outpacing others or living up to some arbitrary deadline. The truth is, success is a deeply personal journey, and the only timeline that matters is your own. For many of us, the pressure to achieve on someone else's schedule begins early. From a young age, we're told when we should start school, graduate, land a job, get married, have children, and so on. These external expectations can make us feel like we're always behind or falling short if we don't meet those milestones at the right time. But the reality is that life doesn't follow a one-size-fits-all timeline. Everyone's path is different, and the journey to success is as unique as the person walking it. Comparing our progress to others is not only unhelpful, it's harmful. One of the most significant struggles we face in this race is the pressure to achieve what we perceive as success in a set time frame. The shoulds begin to take over. I should be further along in my career by now, or I should have achieved this by a certain age. This constant comparison to others' milestones, whether in our personal lives or professional careers, often leaves us feeling inadequate or unsuccessful. We forget that life is not a checklist to be completed. It's a series of experiences that build on one another. Success isn't about hitting a particular age or stage of life. Success is about fulfillment, progress, and staying true to your own values and purpose. The societal obsession with speed and instant gratification has distorted our view of what success truly is. We see stories of people who seemingly achieve great things in record time. Someone who becomes a millionaire at 25, or someone who lands their dream job right out of college. We're left wondering, why haven't I done that yet? The myth of overnight success is dangerous, because it disregards the years of hard work, learning, failures, and growth that go into every true success story. It's important to remember that everyone's journey looks different, and there is no right age or time to achieve your dreams. The only timeline that matters is yours, and that's the one you get to create. Furthermore, the idea that success is a race can lead to burnout. When we're constantly chasing someone else's timeline or comparing our progress to others, we're more likely to push ourselves too hard. We become focused on external markers of success, money, titles, status, rather than on what success truly means to us on a deeper level. We begin to sacrifice our health, relationships, and well-being in pursuit of something that may not even be aligned with our authentic selves. Success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's about pacing yourself, enjoying the process, and learning to find joy in the journey rather than the destination. The other side of this pressure to succeed on someone else's timeline is the fear of failure. When we're constantly comparing ourselves to others or trying to meet deadlines that aren't our own, we become paralyzed by the fear of not being good enough. Failure becomes a reflection of our worth instead of being seen as a natural part of growth. In reality, failure is not the opposite of success. It's a necessary component of it. We learn more from our failures than from our successes, and every setback is an opportunity for growth. Embracing failure as part of your journey allows you to move forward with confidence, knowing that every misstep is just a step toward getting closer to the success that's uniquely yours. It's also essential to recognize that true success isn't about external validation. When we're caught up in trying to meet other people's expectations or timelines, we lose sight of what we really want. The culture of comparison tells us that success is something to be measured by the praise, approval, or recognition of others. But real success is about living in alignment with your own values, goals, and purpose. Success is about creating a life that feels meaningful to you, not about chasing someone else's version of achievement. When we let go of the idea that success is a race, we can begin to create our own definition of what it means to live a successful life. Ultimately, the only way to live a life of true success is to stop trying to keep up with everyone else's pace. Instead of measuring your worth against the timeline of others, learn to embrace your own path and trust the timing of your journey. This means letting go of the pressure to achieve by certain ages or milestones and allowing yourself to grow at your own rate. When you focus on your own timeline, you give yourself permission to grow, to stumble, and to learn without the weight of comparison hanging over you. You create space for authentic success, the kind that feels deeply satisfying, fulfilling, and aligned with your true self. You stop chasing external markers of success and start building a life that reflects who you are, not what others think you should be. It's important to remember that success is not a destination, but a journey. It's a continuous process of learning, evolving, and growing into the person you're meant to be. When you stop viewing success as a race, you free yourself from the pressure of constant competition and comparison. Instead, you create space for your own timeline, and in doing so, you cultivate a deeper sense of fulfillment. Success isn't about getting there faster than everyone else. It's about getting there in your own way, on your own terms. The path may be winding and there may be setbacks along the way, but when you stay true to your own timeline, you will ultimately arrive at a place that's right for you. In a world that values strength, independence, and perfection, vulnerability is often seen as something to hide or avoid. We've been taught that being vulnerable means being weak, exposed, and open to harm. We've learned to put on a facade of invulnerability, thinking that showing our emotions, fears, and imperfections makes us less capable or less worthy. But in truth, vulnerability is not a weakness. It's a source of immense strength. It's what allows us to connect deeply with others, to be authentic, and to fully experience life in all its richness. Vulnerability is the courage to show up and be seen, even when we can't control the outcome. It's the willingness to put ourselves in situations where we risk rejection, disappointment, or failure. It's not about being open for the sake of exposure. It's about being willing to take emotional risks in order to create real, meaningful connections with others. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we step away from the walls we've built to protect ourselves and let people in. The very act of showing up with an open heart and mind is an act of bravery. And in that bravery, we discover our true power, the ability to connect, to grow, and to live fully. One of the most profound aspects of vulnerability is that it enables us to experience the full range of human emotion. When we close ourselves off to vulnerability, we also close ourselves off to the richness of life. We become numb to the deep joys, the beauty of intimacy, and the rewards of personal growth. Vulnerability allows us to feel deeply, to love deeply, and to experience the world in a way that's raw, honest, and deeply real. Without vulnerability, life becomes a surface-level existence, safe, but ultimately shallow. It's when we open ourselves to vulnerability that we truly experience the fullness of what it means to be alive. At the same time, vulnerability is essential for authentic connection with others. In our relationships, whether personal or professional, we often hide behind walls of perfection, trying to present our best selves at all times. But the truth is, it's our imperfections and struggles that make us relatable and human. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we invite others to do the same. This creates a space where true connection can occur. Vulnerability fosters empathy, compassion, and understanding. It breaks down the barriers between us and helps us relate to one another on a deeper level as we realize we are not alone in our experiences. For many, the fear of vulnerability is tied to the fear of judgment and rejection. We worry that if we show our true selves, our flaws, insecurities, and fears, others will see us as weak or unworthy. This fear can lead us to hide our true feelings, thoughts, and desires, creating a barrier to the authentic connections we crave. But when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we let go of the need for perfection. We realize that true strength lies in our imperfections, and that embracing who we really are is a powerful act of self-acceptance. When we stop fearing rejection and start embracing vulnerability, we step into a space of freedom, where we no longer have to hide parts of ourselves in order to be accepted. Furthermore, vulnerability is an essential component of personal growth and transformation. It takes vulnerability to step outside of our comfort zones and try something new, whether that's pursuing a dream, taking on a new challenge, or speaking our truth. Without vulnerability, we remain stuck in the same patterns and behaviors, afraid to step into the unknown. Growth happens when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable to change, to failure, and to the uncertainty of the future. Each time we embrace vulnerability, we stretch ourselves, expand our horizons, and become more resilient in the face of life's challenges. The more we embrace vulnerability, the more we grow into the person we are meant to be. Another powerful aspect of vulnerability is its connection to creativity and innovation. Creativity often requires us to step into the unknown, to take risks, and to expose our ideas and work to the possibility of criticism or failure. Many artists, writers, and creators speak of vulnerability as a necessary part of their creative process. Without vulnerability, there is no real expression. Vulnerability opens the door to new ideas, new ways of thinking, and new possibilities. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable in our creative pursuits, we break through self-doubt and fear, opening ourselves to the possibility of innovation. Creativity thrives in vulnerability because it allows us to step away from perfection and embrace the messiness and beauty of the process. Ultimately, vulnerability is about accepting ourselves fully, flaws and all. We live in a world that often prioritizes achievement, success, and perfection, leaving little room for self-acceptance. But when we embrace vulnerability, we allow ourselves to be seen as we truly are. This acceptance of ourselves and our imperfections is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. It's the courage to show up as our authentic selves, without masks or pretense. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we unlock a deeper sense of peace because we no longer have to hide or pretend to be someone we're not. Vulnerability is the gateway to self-love, self-acceptance, and true inner strength. In conclusion, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It's a powerful source of strength. It enables us to connect with others on a deeper level, experience the full range of human emotions, and grow into our best selves. When we embrace vulnerability, we step into a life of courage, authenticity, and freedom. Vulnerability is the key to unlocking our true potential and living a life that is rich, fulfilling, and deeply meaningful. It's through vulnerability that we truly discover who we are and what we're capable of. Only by embracing vulnerability can we unlock the courage to live fully and authentically in a world that constantly demands more from us, more time, more energy, more of ourselves. It's easy to forget that we have the right to protect our own well-being. We often think that saying no, setting limits, or creating boundaries is selfish or rejecting others. We fear that by establishing boundaries, we might disappoint people, hurt their feelings, or make them feel unloved. But the reality is, boundaries are not a form of rejection. They are a profound expression of self-love. They are a way to honor ourselves, our values, and our needs, and they create the space for us to thrive both personally and professionally. The importance of boundaries cannot be overstated. Without them, we risk becoming overwhelmed, depleted, and resentful. When we fail to establish clear boundaries, we allow others to take up space that rightfully belongs to us. We give away our time, energy, and emotions without regard for how it affects our own well-being. This can lead to burnout, feelings of resentment, and a loss of self-respect. Boundaries are necessary for preserving our emotional, mental, and physical health. They allow us to prioritize what matters most, and they protect us from being pulled in 1,000 different directions. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting others out. It's about making sure we have the capacity to show up as our best selves in the world. Establishing boundaries can be incredibly difficult, especially for those of us who have been conditioned to put others' needs before our own. We've been taught to be people pleasers, to say yes even when we don't have the energy or desire to do something. We fear conflict, rejection, or the idea that we might disappoint someone. But when we fail to set boundaries, we allow others to define our worth. We end up sacrificing our time, values, and emotional health in an attempt to please others, and this leads to feelings of resentment and burnout. Resentment and burnout. Saying no is not an act of rejection. It's an act of self-preservation and self-respect. It's about honoring our own needs so that we can show up fully for the people and things that truly matter. Boundaries also play a vital role in creating healthy, sustainable relationships. Whether in friendships, family dynamics, or romantic partnerships, boundaries create the framework for respect and mutual understanding. When we set clear boundaries, we communicate to others what is acceptable and what is not. This is not about controlling others. It's about taking responsibility for our own well-being and asking others to respect our needs and limitations. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and boundaries are an essential part of that respect. When both people in a relationship understand and honor each other's boundaries, trust and connection deepen, and the relationship becomes more fulfilling for everyone involved. One of the most powerful things about boundaries is that they give us permission to prioritize ourselves without guilt. We often feel guilty when we take time for ourselves, especially in a society that values constant productivity and self-sacrifice. We're taught to give until there's nothing left to give. But self-care is not selfish. Setting boundaries is an act of self-love because it allows us to recharge, reflect, and reconnect with our own needs. It gives us the space to nurture ourselves so that we can show up fully for others. Without boundaries, we can easily lose ourselves in the demands of life, forgetting that our own well-being is essential for everything we do. Boundaries also help us to define our values and priorities. When we know what matters most to us, it becomes easier to set limits on how we spend our time and energy. Boundaries are an expression of what we are willing to accept and what we are not. They reflect our beliefs, our values, and our commitments to ourselves. For example, if we value family time, we might set boundaries around work hours or commitments that interfere with spending quality time with loved ones. If we value our mental health, we might set boundaries around social media consumption or the types of conversations we engage in. When we establish boundaries based on our values, we honor what's most important and ensure that we are living in alignment with our true selves. Another key element of boundaries is that they protect our peace. In today's fast-pacing world, there is constant pressure to be available, to keep up with every social engagement, and to constantly be on the go. This can lead to overwhelm and stress. But when we set boundaries, we create the space to breathe, to relax, and to take care of ourselves. Boundaries allow us to guard our time and energy, giving us the opportunity to recharge and restore our sense of balance. This is not only important for our own well-being, but it also allows us to approach life with a clearer, more focused mindset. When we protect our peace, we are better able to navigate life's challenges with calm and clarity. The act of setting boundaries is also an act of empowerment. It is a declaration that we have the right to control our own lives and choices. Too often, we allow external forces, other people's expectations, societal pressures, or the demands of our jobs to dictate our actions. But when we set boundaries, we take back control. We get to decide where to invest our time, energy, and emotional resources. Boundaries empower us to protect what matters most and to make decisions that support our well-being and growth. They are a powerful tool for creating a life that aligns with our values and desires. In conclusion, boundaries are not about rejecting others. They are a form of self-love and self-respect. They allow us to honor our needs, protect our well-being, and prioritize what truly matters in our lives. By setting clear boundaries, we create healthier relationships, protect our peace, and empower ourselves to live authentically. Boundaries are a necessary and courageous act of self-care, and they are key to living a life that feels balanced, fulfilling, and aligned with our deepest values. In the end, boundaries are one of the most loving things we can do for ourselves. They aren't about building walls to keep others out. They are about creating a foundation where we can truly thrive, feel valued, and respect our own limits. By setting boundaries, we honor our worth, our energy, and our time, and we show the world that our needs are just as important as anyone else's. The more we practice setting healthy boundaries, the more we create space for our true selves to emerge and for our relationships to flourish in a way that is mutually supportive and respectful. Boundaries are a powerful tool for creating a life of balance, fulfillment, and peace, and they are one of the most profound expressions of self-love we can offer ourselves.